1, 2, 3, on est prêt? C'est parti. Bienvenue tout le monde. Welcome everybody to the séance ordinaire du Conseil le 9 juin 2025. Welcome everybody to the regular council meeting for the 9th of June for 2025. Tonight we're going to start off this meeting in a bit of a different way. Westmount and Canada lost a great citizen last week in Mark Garneau, which is a huge loss for this community. And so I just wanted to begin this session with a moment of silence in honor of Mr. Garneau and all that he contributed to our community. So if you would join me in that. Merci. For those who aren't aware, at the library, there is a book of condolences at the Westmount Public Library that I encourage residents and anyone else to go sign. I know that I've heard from his family and his friends that they are really buoyed by the support and the outpouring of admiration and respect for Mr. Garneau, so I'd love to see that book just absolutely full. So thank you for that. I think we're going to start with a few comments. Madame Kez, do you want to start at your end of the table?
Sure. Okay. What do I have? Firstly, I'd like to remind residents that if you're going away on vacation, you can call public security or register online to have exterior visual checks on your home. Also, I invite you to have a look at the city's website for a few simple, effective habits to help prevent break-ins. There are a few listed if you go on the city website. A few include keep keys, wallets, and handbags away from the door, consider using a protective faraway day to block car key signals, store valuables and important documents in a safe hidden location. The list goes on. Don't leave ladders lying around outside. Get to know your neighbors. They can help you spot anything unusual. And again, if you're away for an extended period of time, please register with public security to pass by for checks. Another issue I'd just like to bring to your attention, that preparatory work for the water and sewer pipes on Green Avenue between St. Antoine and St. Catherine Street is scheduled to start this week. The complete project is expected to last 6 months, should be completed sometime in November. As this project is being managed by Montreal, any questions or inquiries regarding the project can be directed to the contact information provided on the notice that was distributed by the City of Montreal. So that's the notice, and whoever is affected should have received that. Thirdly, I just want to give a reminder of the public assembly regarding the final plan for the southeast sector will be on June 18th, 6 p.m. in Victoria Hall. I can't stress enough the importance of reading the documents regarding the special planning program, which can be found on our city website under Engage Westmount Southeast, so that you can come prepared with any questions or comments you may have. And that's it.
Thank you, Madame Kez. I would call it the latest plan, not the final plan.
Okay, latest plan, even better.
But thank you for all the updates, and I reiterate the importance of registering with public security, because they will pass by more often. And they will give you tips like cancel your newspapers, things like that. Donc, merci beaucoup. Monsieur Aronson.
Thank you, Madame Mayoress. I have a few announcements tonight from the city's citizen engagement file. If you are a photographer or you'd just like to see something beautiful in Westmount and snap a picture of it, we invite you to join our photo contest on the City of Westmount's website. There is a form that you can use on the front page of the website to enter your vision of Westmount. From June the 2nd, well, from last week until July the 2nd, we're taking submissions, and the winners will be the photo that will be, and the person's name will be featured on the home page of the website from July the 15th all the way through the summer into September the 21st. If you're a minor, don't forget you're going to need to get your parents to sign off on your submission. From our environmental file, our green patrol is back. And so throughout the summer, some of our summer students are going to be promoting eco-responsibility through various activities. If you receive a little report card at your door, either reminding you of things you might be able to do a little bit better in terms of waste management or congratulating you on a job well done, that's because our green patrol is out, making sure that we all have an opportunity to do right by our environment. They'll also be hosting some kiosks at events throughout the summer, so when you see them, please do stop by and say hi. You might even learn something new about how you might be able to do something good for the green the initiatives here in Westmount. Speaking of which, we have green grants available through the City of Westmount. These are small grants, reimbursements of between $20 and $150 for products and for services that you may want for your own household that we would like to help you defray the costs of. You can, there are a lot of categories that you can submit for, including Bixi memberships, although there's only 75 of these that are going to be done in this category. So if you want your Bixi membership reimbursed, and please file soon. You can find the information on our website. You can also file for reimbursements on things like repairs of household goods, like bicycles, clothing, small appliances, large appliances, and other things. You get a reimbursement for a membership in the Partage Club, which is a Quebec-based application that lets you share items that you use only once in a while, like a tool or a kitchen appliance, with your neighbors. And there's some anti-food waste purchases that you can have reimbursed, things like using the platforms Too Good To Go or Food Hero, or even Lufa Farms. If you'd like some more information about this, check out the website. If you are a gardener, you'll already know that our free compost, made from all of the processed compost waste that's collected in Westmount, was available starting at the end of May, on May 30th, while supplies last, at the community gardens on Hallowell and Hillside Avenues. You will have to bring your own bucket or pail to take your compost away with, but while we have some, come and get it. It's great for your garden. And finally, for our merchants and businesses, last weekend we had a wonderful festival and vintage car show on Green Avenue. It was a lot of fun, and I thank the Merchants Association of Cartier Green for putting it on. If you had a good time and want to do it again, or if you missed it and want another shot at a really fun time, Victoria Village Festival is this weekend, June 14th and 15th, on Victoria Village. It is a festival and sidewalk sale with entertainment and fun for the whole family. So please come on out and support our merchants, especially in Victoria Village, while the street construction is ongoing. They could really use the boost of seeing your faces. And that's everything, Madame Mayor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually have quite a few announcements tonight. I'll start with the unfortunate cancellation of Family Day, which was on Saturday, May 31st. It's one of our signature events, and obviously it was very disappointing to cancel it because of weather. But I just want to thank the Sports and Rec team and all the community events people who basically spend the entire year planning for the next one. It's a lot of work, and we all love attending, and it was just unfortunate. Weather was out of our control, but we look forward to next year. Also, right after Family Days, when the pool opened, and so since early June, it's actually been quite full and used with the end of school and the great weather, and all is well there. The King George Park and Westmount Park ponds have been cleaned up and refilled. They look great. The ducks are back. There have been major repairs on the retaining wall of the east side of the Westmount Park pond. It was actually in danger of collapsing, so that has happened. All our water features in our parks are operational, which is fun. Summer is officially here. We will begin repairs on the flower clock, which is located on Sherbrooke, I believe this week. And planting of flower beds throughout the city is still underway. We have many of them, so please be patient with us. I have an update on Summit Woods, where we've been working quite hard. We've worked with Les Amis de la Montagne, and the schedule that they've put together with the city is on track. They'll be working on the informal trails in the coming weeks, and they'll be providing us with an update on the areas they've identified with invasive species and rare species that need to be protected, and they will put the necessary controls in place forthcoming. They will also be selecting 1 or 2 locations where they'll be fencing off to protect these species for regeneration. Tonight on the agenda, we have 3 items, one on tree felling, maintenance, planting, and as well as park trail replacements. So this is all very good news, investing in our trees and parks. And lastly, the Doug Ellis Memorial Garden has been completed. We will be removing the fences next week, and we'll have its official dedication with the families and other victims toward the end of the summer when the schedule works for everybody. So that's it. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Monsieur Pert?
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I will keep it brief. I will reiterate Councillor Kez's invitation to join us next week, Wednesday the 18th at Victoria Hall for the, what is it, we call it the Public Assembly for the PPU in the Southeast sector. That'll be your opportunity to give us your feedback and your views on the proposal that was published, I believe, last week. So that's the time to talk about the PPU. Next, we're in full construction season, as you've noticed. I just want to highlight progress on a few of the ongoing road projects. As many of you noticed, we are in full mess along full cones along Sherbrooke Street in the Victoria Village, progressing on schedule and moving very quickly, but it is quite disruptive to the local merchant community. So Councillor Aronson often encourages us to make the extra effort to support them during these times when there's less foot traffic that's going to their doors. I'm sure they would very much appreciate it. We will be working a little bit on the signage, see if we can improve the wayfinding experience for the residents in the sector, just to make it a little bit easier to get around. The next project started today, I believe, in Forden Crescent. So that's one of our largest projects this year. And later on the agenda, we will be approving the project on Wood, so the section between St. Catherine and de Maisonneuve, which has been on and off the books for many years in succession. So now we are, I'm sure the residents of One Wood will be very happy to hear that we will be proceeding with that project. And last but not least, we've talked about Claremont project, that section, for quite some time. Later on this year, we will be getting, later on this summer, rather, we'll be getting the final prices on those, and we expect the works to begin in August this year to get done for this season. So that's kind of a little bit of a snapshot of the major roads projects that are underway this year. Some of you might have noticed that the bicycle path on the Maisonneuve bicycle path has been resurfaced. I was on it this afternoon enjoying that smooth surface. Whether we can't necessarily, depending on your perspective, Westmount can't take either the blame or the praise for that work. That is entirely a Ville de Montréal project. They funded the work and they...
Oh, we fund the work.
Well,
We
all fund the
pay,
work,
we all
exactly.
fund the work.
We all fund the work, but that was on their, out of their checkbook and their contractors who did the work, and it was done very quickly. So every time we send a tax bill, every time we send money to the tax, more than 50% of our taxes go up to the mothership. This is one of those rare occasions when we actually see some of that money coming back into our community. So I'm happy to see that done. Just a quick announcement too, there are 2 items on the agenda, items 10 and 15. I will declare a conflict of interest for my business, and so I'll leave the room for those 2 events.
Thank you very much. Monsieur Chamy? No? Councillor Roux with the good stuff.
Exactly. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So first, I'd like to mention that last Wednesday, we celebrated the winners of the McIntyre writing competition. So as always, it was a beautiful event, a room filled with talented and proud children, proud parents, proud grandparents. So it's really a beautiful event, and I'd like to thank the chair of the committee, Liz McCallum, and Wendy Whaling, who's the director of the Children's Library. This is a beautiful event, but it's a lot of work. There were over 1,200 soumissions, kids who wrote in. It's nearly 80 volunteer judges who assess all these different writings. So thank you for all of them for allowing Westmount to have such a beautiful event. Now with what's ahead of us. So on Monday, June 16th, if you've ever felt overwhelmed at the thought of trying to read Ulysses, take heart and join us on Bloomsday to discover the people and places in the story through staged readings and a slideshow. The festivities will begin at 2 p.m. and will continue until 8 a.m. With a break for supper. And this is taking place in the Westmount Room. Tea and coffee will be served, and this is in collaboration with the Festival Bloomsday Montreal. Then tomorrow, join us in celebrating Pride Month with a special screening of cult favorite documentary, Paris is Burning. This is at Victoria Hall at 2 p.m. On the 20th, again at Victoria Hall at 2 p.m. If you want to join us for a special screening for Run, Woman, Run in honor of National Indigenous Peoples Day. Sorry, I've got so much. Yes, sorry. Oui, le prochain, c'est mardi le 24 juin, la Saint-Jean-Baptiste, évidemment, alors la Fête nationale du Québec. Alors, s'il vous plaît, venez célébrer avec nous au Parc Westmount. Il y aura nourriture, musique, maquillage, magicien et un concert. Alors ça, c'est de 14h à 18h. Et finalement, une semaine plus tard, Canada Day. So there will be a concert at Victoria Hall on July 1st at 2 p.m. So show your Canadian pride as celebrate Canada Day at Victoria Hall. Enjoy a special afternoon of classical music with Ensemble Camerata. Refreshments will be served, and I believe there will also be festivities at the WRC, right? The usual? Yeah. Okay, because we don't see everyone until after the 1st of July, so, okay.
Great, perfect.
So, of course, there's much, much more. Please go on the website. Many activities at the studio always, and club de lecture en français, en anglais, club de tricot. So, oops, sorry. There's something to keep you busy every day if you go look on the website. Thank you.
So, thank you, and I can attest that McIntyre is truly one of the greatest things that this city does. The commitment from the librarians that run this, the commitment from the volunteers, and they always need more volunteers, and it's not a volunteer job that's not without some work, but it is, I have yet to meet a McIntyre volunteer that regretted their implication in this amazing endeavor. So, it only happens because of the volunteers. So I would encourage you, I've signed up to be a volunteer in my next chapter of my life. So I encourage you to volunteer if you can, if you have the time and if you're willing. It's really a wonderful, wonderful event.
Yes, and you can go at the library, Relier, what's Relier in English? Anyways, they put together all the winning compositions in
Yeah.
one book, which is available at the library, so you can go sit in our beautiful library and be impressed by these young children and their talent.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Non?
Yep.
Oui.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Donc, j'ai l'intention de voter contre la résolution numéro 26 qui concerne le Boisé Summit. Au moment du vote, je vais expliquer les motifs pour la raison pour laquelle je vote contre cette résolution. Madam Mayor, I will be voting against motion number 26 for Summit Woods. At the time of the vote, I will be providing the reasons why I will be voting against this motion. Thank you.
OK, donc on va commencer avec la première période de questions. We will start with the first question period. Please state your name and your question. And then, je pense qu'on a quelques questions en ligne que peut-être on va faire à la fin dans la deuxième période de questions. On va voir le temps. Welcome, bienvenue.
Hello, Claudia Baruch, 3741 The Boulevard. My question is in a context of an incident that happened to me 2 weeks ago outside Westmount Square. I was going to the dentist, and I discovered across the entire sidewalk of Wood Avenue chalk written hate speech, filled the sidewalk with incorrect information, lies, very offensive language, very offensive comments on the sidewalk. There were also people putting flyers on cars that, again, was complete hate speech. There's no way of calling it free speech anymore. The police were there watching. I have a yellow ribbon on my purse, which somebody finally identified as a support sign for the hostages that are in Gaza. And as a result, somebody came up to me and spat on me. The police continued to watch and asked me where I was going. I told them to the dentist, and they asked me if I would please walk faster. My question is, free speech is one thing. This is no longer free speech. The question shouldn't be, why has Westmount allowed this to happen for all this time? My question to you is, are you going to continue to let it happen? What can you do about it? Because to be confronted every time you go anywhere near Westmount Square, one place, never mind all the other events that Westmount hosts, that we have to walk through lines of security and police and be harassed all the time because there's an event that somebody doesn't like, which is usually a hostage speaking or somebody having a conversational, informational session. This can't go on. This is Westmount.
So I am very sorry that that happened to you. That's assault. That's not free speech. I'm very disappointed in the police reaction on site. My advice to you would have been to file a police report. Our public security cannot arrest anyone. They cannot
No, I realize it's not
detain
public.
anyone. So it is, if you want to share with me the date that it happened, certainly any of what we have been able to do is secure more police on site, more police at whenever there is, you know, we're trying to understand whenever there is an event that might trigger some of this or trigger some of the protests, that we have more police on site, and we do have more police on site, and we have more plainclothes officers on site as well. But that's totally unacceptable what happened to you.
But does Westmount have jurisdiction over what the police need to do?
No. So what the police,
Site do absolutely nothing.
you're saying that I did absolutely nothing?
No, the police on site do absolutely nothing but watch.
So if you, I do believe you should file a police report on this, and you can share with me the information, the details, the date, the time, all of that, and I will certainly relay it to the commandant, and I will certainly relay it to the other senior officers within the SPVM, that this is completely unacceptable. And what we have always argued for, we understand that there is a right to free speech. There absolutely is. It is deeply entrenched in our charter. But there is not a right to hate speech, and there is not a right to block people's access to, whether it's to be their homes or to businesses. And those people that live in that area have suffered because of the location that they're at. Tonight, there is quite a large protest going on on Wood Avenue, which will require a heavy, heavy police presence yet again, at the cost of our resources being elsewhere as well. So if you want to share with me that information, I will absolutely advocate that that's not how that should have been responded to.
I appreciate and thank you for wanting to do that. What I don't need to make a police report because there must be thousands and thousands of similar police reports, and I know that it's not Westmount that I'm criticizing. I'm asking if Westmount has anything else that they can do, since this happens in what I'm complaining about. It happens everywhere, but this is happening in Westmount. The sidewalks written with chalk. Why is it
So
allowed?
that we can eliminate quickly. We had, I won't repeat what was written on a stop sign, but there was a stop sign that had been vandalized last week. It was sent to me by a resident on the street, and very quickly, the public security director had the team go out and clean it up. So there is online, there is a graffiti app that you can fill in with the picture, but you can also get in touch with assistance@westmount.org. And we will act very quickly. We will, I mean, a chalk one is very easy for our street sweeper to come right in and eliminate that immediately. But it is, if you share the information with us, if we haven't already seen it, we will make sure that we act as quickly as possible because we have zero tolerance for it in terms of the graffiti and the hate speech on the public domain.
But so if I understand correctly, Westmount cannot do anything about having police stop screaming voices, hate speech, written hate speech while
I
it's
can
happening.
continue to advocate
Only be
for
after.
more action on the ground at these
Thank you.
rallies, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, bienvenue.
On a Chaquette, directeur FCFP 301, le
Bienvenue.
syndicat des écoles bien occupées de Montréal. Madame la mairesse, le climat de travail se détériore au sein de la ville. L'emploi d'une firme externe n'a absolument rien donné. On a eu ce matin, en plus, une rencontre.
Le quoi?
On a eu ce matin une rencontre avec...
Donne-moi 2 secondes, je vous entends.
C'est bon? On a eu une
Tout
rencontre...
ça va être en ligne, donc vous pouvez prendre des clips. Oui. OK.
On a eu une rencontre ce matin avec une inspectrice de la CNSST, avec les gestionnaires de la ville de Westmount au sujet du climat de travail toxique. OK. Quelles mesures la ville envisage-t-elle pour améliorer l'environnement de travail, la perte de personnel qualifié? Plusieurs mécaniciens ont récemment démissionné ou quitté leur poste. Qu'allez-vous faire pour résoudre les causes profondes de cette situation?
OK, donc je ne parle pas des employés individus, de tout, mais j'ai toute confiance dans la directrice générale et l'équipe qu'ils vont gérer ce dossier. Est-ce que vous avez d'autres commentaires sur ça? Non?
C'est que là, vous aviez 7 mécaniciens, puis il en reste 3. Donc, il y en a un qui a été congédié, mais les 3 autres, eux autres, ils ont...
Comme je l'avais dit, je ne fais
David.
pas des commentaires sur les employés.
Parfait.
Mais merci pour vos commentaires, vos questions.
Bonjour, Mme la mairesse. Bonjour, Mesdames et Messieurs conseillers et conseillères. Bonjour, Mme la directrice.
Votre nom?
Jean-Pierre Lauzon, président de l'École bleue de Montréal.
Bienvenue.
Merci. Vos gestionnaires, un en particulier, le directeur adjoint des ressources humaines, adopte un comportement de confrontation systématique avec les employés et le syndicat. Il est identifié comme la principale source contractuelle de conflits actuels. Ma question, qu'allez-vous faire face à ce gestionnaire délinquant? Êtes-vous prêt à vous engager dans un processus de communication ouvert et régulier avec les employés?
Merci pour votre question. Comme j'avais dit, je ne parle pas des employés, des cas individus.
Sous question, seriez-vous prêt à entendre une démarche conjointe avec le ministère du Travail?
Je n'ai pas un commentaire sur ça. Madame le DG, est-ce que vous avez...
Bien, en fait, premièrement, je suis disponible pour un appel. Demain, ça va me faire plaisir. Puis on va discuter de tout ça ensemble.
Oui, ça serait bon que ça se règle parce que la prochaine fois, on va peut-être descendre plus de monde. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Prochaine question.
Good evening. My name is James Murphy. I live on Melville Avenue.
Welcome.
Thank you. I wanted to offer a couple of quick comments and a couple of questions on the redevelopment of Southeast Westmount.
Sure.
A little bit distracting. I think we're good.
OK. I think we can start again. On va recommencer.
I'm still James Murphy.
You're still
live
James
on Westmount
Murphy,
Avenue.
and you're still here.
And I'm still here. There's an old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. Second best time is now. And I think it's a great analogy for what needs to be done in Southeast Westmount. We deserve so much better than the current state of that neighborhood. And when I hear builders come to City Hall saying they're ready to redevelop the property. Young people coming to City Hall, as they have for the last 2 council meetings, saying, you know, they're looking for more housing choices. It's clear that not only do we deserve better, but we obviously can do much better. I think a lot of the controversy seems to be about the height of the building. When we see 20 stories adjacent to a metro, I mean, to me, that's quite normal. I think there's massive social acceptability for that. What I don't think there would be is social acceptability to block the construction of high-rises adjacent to metros, especially at a time when we're trying to get people out of the car and into public transit. With respect to the 7 stories along Dorchester, that's very similar to what we have close to where I live near Westmount Park, along St. Catherine. There's a few really well-done examples on Redfern and Metcalfe that you can look to. So I think it's really positive. 2 minor points that I wanted to raise, improvement suggestions, and I've already sent them online, so you might have them in your email. First has to do with timing. So I looked through the work plan, I looked through the bylaws, and I think there was something like 0 to 2 years to do an assessment on whether the utilities could absorb those additional homes and businesses. So my first suggestion or question would be, can any initial pre-planning work be done? Can an assessment of the current capacity be done so that maybe we can get that a little bit closer to 0 years rather than 2 years? And then my second bit of feedback, or my question or comment, however you want to frame it, has to do with making it inclusive. So I noticed in the planning program, it still references young families. And as someone who fits into that demographic, I'm a little bit flattered, but I'm also a little bit worried that language around young families could potentially be misused in the future to create exclusionary zoning. And I think the thing we have to keep in mind about young families is they grow up, right? So that's why we've heard at council, young people, students who don't want to be displaced from their community. I've heard from seniors, I spoke to a neighbor, a senior citizen, the guy's practically in tears talking to me because he doesn't know, if he retires and he wants to downsize, where can he live? So I'm flattered that young families were considered, but at the same time, it's about so much more than young families, right? Like, let's keep families together. Let's keep people from being displaced. Let's give seniors options so that we can open up other homes for young families. And one thing that really appeals to my family about Westmount, it's not that the city mandated the builder make our apartment suitable for young families. I think the market can probably figure that out. But it's the parks, it's the recreation centers, and I saw in the plan.
The community.
It's the community. And I note you've actually incorporated a lot of feedback into that plan. The alignment of Dorchester, a smaller public square, similar to what we have around the Mouton Noir, maybe a little bit less like Cabot Square. But I think having the good parks, the recreation facilities, that's what I think is going to be the draw to young families. But I kind of worry if we put another loophole or another step in the zoning to target young families, it could come at the expense of seniors, of students, of the extended family.
Okay.
So those are my 2 bits of feedback.
Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your participation in this. And I think it's really important, and it's a good reminder. I don't think council needs to be reminded of it, but there are many voices that have participated in this. Sometimes some voices can be louder than others, but there are many voices, and I think you touched on really what the whole thing is about. The whole thing is about community. The whole thing is about revitalizing an area that people would want to live in. And when we talk about being different than Montreal, we are different than Montreal. We have the WRC, we have 12 schools. We have a public school system where you could go from pre-K all the way to CEGEP and stay within your community and be able to walk to all of those schools. We have the Westmount Public Library where 1,000 people go through those doors every day. We have the Greenhouse and Victoria Hall and all of the other things, a day camp that is so much better than what you're going to find downtown for your kids, and a hockey team for them to play on. And I think that's what it is. That's what it comes back to. And revitalizing an area, and Westmount deserves a better area, a revitalized area that people want to be and live. And I think we're getting there, and I think we've come a long way. We are not finished, but I think we've come a long way. But I reiterate that I thank you for your participation in it, because I think it's a really important voice. And when you talk about, the families, I'm the ultimate sandwich generation. I have young kids and parents that I've had to find seniors housing for, and nothing has been more stressful than finding that housing for parents and worrying about them and making sure they're safe, and having more options for that, or just having more stock in the market is a good thing. And keeping people in this community that really love this community is a good thing too. And welcoming new people. And so I hope you're able to attend next week. I know it's a very busy time of year, in particular for people who have kids in school. Like, this is a crazy time of year. So I get that this meeting is happening at not the most convenient night for a lot of people. Do you have anything you want to add to that? No? C'est bon? Okay, thank you.
I think you're on the right track, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Chipping away at it, yeah. Welcome, bienvenue.
Hi, I'm Lucy Fellows, Wood Avenue. I'm following up on the gentleman's comments about the Southeast sector in anticipation of next week's meeting. It's coming up fast. I, too, am glad that our mayor and council are revisiting the Westmount Southeast project with a view to shaping the sector as a vibrant area to live and work. I'm all for it. My question, how can we be confident that the SPP for this project will deliver the outcomes that Westmount defined as principles at the start of deliberations: greening, animation, openness, identity, and community? The draft concordance bylaws for the SPP, adopted at a special meeting of the City Council on May 27th, page 54, posted May 28th, the following day on the city's website, shows a densification strategy with more than a dozen structures, of which 4 could be up to 20 floors and 1 up to 29 floors. The disposition, as I understand it, is yet to be determined. Juxtaposition with the metro, not bad, but juxtaposition with a care to existing scale would be important. The questions, though, to the council at the special meeting on May 27 raised many issues that are not addressed in the SPP. These include demographic and economic analysis, infrastructure viability and costs, utilities and substation upgrades, negotiation of incentive zoning, provision for affordable housing, and overall housing suitable for all families, young and older. The implementation plan, beginning on page 76 of the latest report, shows that bringing this vast project to completion will require forging partnerships and strategizing actions over several years. The process extends well beyond the present council's term. Next September, on behalf of constituents, our council would be voting without essential information that will really determine the scope and success of this huge project. Planning the Southeast sector seems to me, as one citizen, to be shifting from having a mandate from citizens to providing a mandate for developers. I respect the council's hard work and good intentions, so I'm concerned about the direction that the project is taking with such speed. How can citizens be sure that the outcomes align with the stated vision for the Southeast sector? That's my question.
Thank you very much. And I had seen that your question had also been submitted online today as well, so we can pull that one off of the online questions. So thank you for coming in person. Thank you for your feedback. And I mean, it's a very detailed question. Much of it will be answered next week at the June 18th meeting in terms of the public presentation. But what you're talking, the PPU or the SPP is setting out a framework. So there's no building, there's no architecture that we're reviewing, there's no windows that the PAC is going to review to pass at this point. It really is setting out a framework for the ability for this, the next stage to happen. And that is it's the first time we've ever used this tool in the city, and it is a tool that more and more cities are using at this point. And it's an important step in the process to begin that. But it is by no means a building application. And it's, you had mentioned that it is shifting mandate from citizens to providing a mandate for developers, which I would say, I would have to say I disagree with. Building owners are also part of this conversation. They have been part of the conversation all along, just as others who occupy building, Atwater Library has also been part of this conversation. They are a building owner in the neighborhood, Alexis Neon. So current building owners as well, as opposed to, there's vacant lots. But it's important that we have that conversation with everybody and really try and come to, with the best advice possible, a plan that will see this area revitalized so that it truly does reflect our community. But it is a framework. It is not an application for any specific project. And so when we talk about number of units and things like that, that could shift. You could have a desire for larger units, smaller units, and that also will be dictated by the needs of the community at times. So this is the beginning of the process, and it's by no means the end. And so much of what you're asking for will be coming in the further stages.
But how and when are those decisions that you're referring to? They won't be in the present council's term. They'll be left for a future council.
Yes, they will be left for a future council, just as no council gets everything done in their 4 years. And this is a project that's been long underway. We've had a couple iterations of we've had different public consultations, which were extremely well attended. And we've had lots of communication back and forth with residents, and I think residents have communicated a lot, certainly with me, and as well with some of the council members, in particular Councillor Peart, who has been very involved. I know Councillor Kez, the councillor for the area, has been very involved with some communication back and forth. And there will be work to continue, and the next council will hopefully continue that work. Do you want to add anything to this?
Only that, as with any zoning change or revision, nothing is guaranteed. We just set a framework, we set our objectives, and when the projects come in, the very stringent administration and our very stringent PAC evaluate those projects to see if they meet those objectives. So, as the mayor said before, we are not approving projects. We're just approving the plan for the projects to come in.
Just out of curiosity, way down the road, who would be choosing the architects or consortium of architects who would actually design and build?
So
the
just as we, and we'll finish on this point because
Yes.
there's a lineup behind you. When you apply for a building permit, you apply as a building owner, you obviously have to submit plans and designs, and that would be up to the building owner to submit those, just like any residential owner would be submitting with the work of their architect. And rest assured, there are we should be very proud of our PAIA in Westmount and the emphasis, importance that we put on design excellence and heritage conservation. And the intention is always to build to a Category 1 standard. So,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
I could just add, just to a point, just because I know some people might be a little bit unclear on this, and so I really want to underline it. The city is only the owner of 2 lots in the entire sector.
Parking lots.
All of the other lots are privately owned by separate individuals.
Yes, I understand that.
So if they choose their professionals, they choose their builders, there is no consortium that is assembled in any way or influenced in any way by the city. The city controls our lots. The private property owners control theirs. But everybody has to fit
Yeah,
into
but
the framework.
are those private property owners subject to the same building constraints the mayor said?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening. Marcy Katz, The Boulevard.
Welcome.
Thank you. I would like to also speak to you tonight about the protests outside of Westmount Square. I'd like to know, I understand that you're limited in terms of it could be more of a provincial or City of Montreal, Mayor Plante, or Legault matter, but I'm sure there's ways that you can do more. I would like to know, for example, the other night, the protests were very loud. People on the 14th floor of Westmount Square with their windows closed could hear screaming at 11 o'clock at night. Do we not have bylaws concerning noise levels in this city? Not enforce them?
The protests are entirely managed by the SPVM. So that overrides we have looked at this. I can assure you, I have spent an enormous amount of time working with not only our own legal counsel, but outside legal counsel, as well as a team of, volunteers who are also lawyers that live within Onewood and Westmount Square who have also helped me with ideas on this. And, much of that you can see in some of the communication that I've written to Mayor Plante on this issue in terms of enforcement. And it has at times gotten better, and then other times it's not. And we, unfortunately, right now, I think we're seeing an uptick in the protests, which often happens as the weather gets warmer and school is out, and we see an uptick in it. What I did discuss with the SPVM just today was the enormous impact it has. We can all agree the right to free speech and the right to protest is guaranteed in Canada, or certainly I can agree to that. But what I cannot agree to, and it's not a small measure. It's not a small measure that Gentile can't have Uber Eats come on a Friday night when there's a protest. That's not a small deal to a local restaurant. And those are the issues that I feel we still have not solved, and that is access and peaceful enjoyment of your own property. So I would like more rules around that and enforcement, and I will continue to advocate for it, but the SPVM does not, I do not have direct control over the actions of the SPVM.
No, you don't, but Mayor Plante does, and so does Premier Legault. You have to do more in terms of, I appreciate that you're trying to do some things, but this is like out of hand at this point, and we have to for the Jewish community in Westmount, for the community in Westmount, period. This is going against, this is Westmount. This is, I'm a tax-paying citizen. So is Claudia, who couldn't go to her dentist because she was being
assaulted.
That's right. I mean, this cannot go on. This cannot be allowed. We cannot all just sit here complacently and let this happen. I don't accept that the police can't do it. They can't do it because they haven't been ordered to do it by Plante and by Legault. And you have to step up to this and make sure that we are protected. We should not have to go out the back door. We come in from the front door and go out through the front door. And it's my right to do that. And you have to make sure to protect my right. All of you do. It should be a shame that you don't do that. And that I live here in Canada. I went to Israel last week. And you know what? The first thing they asked me, what is going on in Canada here? What they hear about what is going on here and how we are unprotected. We don't want things to escalate any further than they already have here. And you need to take action now.
So I reiterate that I advocate for you. And I pushed for this, and I agree. I think you're talking about an incident at the Shar where people were asked to go out the back door. I was there on site. I was in the middle of it. I wasn't attending the event, but I went as soon as there was an issue. So did Councillor Gallery, and I think Councillor Aronson came as well. And you shouldn't go out the back door. Entrances, all the access should be accessible. Houses of worship should not be targeted.
Call in the army if you have to. Call in the army.
So I don't have control over
Well,
the army.
You can go right to Carney. Go speak to Carney. You are our representative.
So, okay, so I think I will continue to advocate for the safety of my residents and for the access to our businesses and our homes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. There was 2 other matters I want to bring up.
So you're supposed to have a question and a follow-up, but I'll let you ask the questions.
Okay, one
if
is
they're quick.
This is an entirely different matter than the one I just brought up, but it's nonetheless something that should be addressed, which is the situation of the traffic where you have construction. You have the apartment building on Victoria and the Boulevard, and I was under the impression that when people are building, the people who are constructing need to do something to help or pay some kind of money to help with the flow of the traffic. I don't see that you've changed the lights. For example, when you're coming down the boulevard, you want to turn left on Victoria. There's no arrow. There's only 1 lane now. So the traffic is completely blocked during rush hour for people who are turning left and completely backed up. Why? It's very simple to fix that. Either we put a turning arrow or hire people during rush hour to help with the flow of traffic.
At that corner in particular, I know that the Traffic Advisory Committee, and Councillor Bostock's not here tonight because of a family issue, but I know that they have, Councillor Kez, do you know if they were looking at changing the configuration there? Because we've also been asked, we've been asked for Victoria and Grosvenor to change the configurations of that. So I think they are looking at that because that is not a one and done project. That's not a Sherbrooke Street that's almost, halfway through. That is a long process in terms of the building. They will continue for that, and it's not in Westmount. It's in Montreal or Côte-de-Neige. So I'm not sure what the answer is from the TAC, if they have come up with a solution, but they're trying different scenarios there to try and ease the flow of traffic, and primarily to ensure that there's safe pedestrian crossings at those 2 busier intersections.
Also, one other fast thing, I've taken photos of industrial-sized air conditioners. They're on rooftops in Westmount right now.
You can leave that with the city clerk.
Okay, and I'd like you to take a look at this seriously because I don't understand how that's allowed. It's in District 1, and it's in District 2, primarily that I've seen it. I don't want to say which house. It's just the idea that, to go forward and not allow this to happen because it doesn't look very nice.
Okay. You've left them there?
Yes, I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next question.
Susan Gold.
Welcome.
Hi. I wanted to bring up the fact that there are a lot of dedicated dog owners who are very interested in helping out Summit Woods, especially with Les Amis de la Montagne, who I know are doing a great job because I go there. But we would love to help out. That would be the Westmount Dog Owners Association and Friends of Summit Woods. We have lots of volunteers. Is it possible to get us together?
So, Councillor Gallery, you might want to answer, but it's, at this stage, Les Amis de la Montagne is offering guidance, but they do a lot of programs on Mount Royal where they bring in citizens as well, and I think that is something that Councillor Gallery had been looking into, so I'll leave it to her to answer.
Well, from what I understand, we're waiting for the feedback from Les Amis de la Montagne, who's been up there and assessing the invasive species and the species that also need extra protection and what sites to corner off. So we would love volunteers up there, but it's just a question of the when, and I think until we have the right data, it would be probably best to wait when we know what needs to be done and where. And we'd probably take guidance from Les Amis at that point.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, for example, there's a lot of buckthorn up there. That takes a lot of people to handle.
Yeah.
And we're very familiar with at least part of the fauna there. So
Well,
we
when
would
we
be
get it-
happy to help when you can.
Well, thank you for your, thank you for your offer to volunteer, and you will see that there will be sections closed off for regeneration, and then there will be sections for invasive species, so thank you for that.
And perhaps we can be in touch later, and I get your email
Absolutely.
for when the
Absolutely.
time might be right.
Even like teepees and stuff. I mean, those things can be closed off, so.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next question, and then I think we will move to the next part of the agenda, and then we'll do the online questions after the bulk of the agenda, if there's not more questions in the room. Bienvenue, welcome.
Madam Mayor, you've had a busy night, challenging night. You did well.
Thank you. I'm used to
not
it.
here to complain. I just want to go and revisit the April 11th visit.
The April 11th, sorry, what?
City council meeting.
Okay.
The other thing.
And your
that
name, sorry, for the record?
Mike Kennedy, the man from Montrose.
The man from Montrose.
Okay. I brought up the potential of putting banners up for Remembrance Day.
Yeah.
I have no feedback. I don't require feedback. But I was in Carlton Place on Saturday, and it was very interesting to see how they remember their fallen heroes and how they have banners with Veterans Day poppy all already up there so people remember it. So I've got some pictures. I'll give that to you. I'll move on to the Mount Rose traffic debacle. It seemed to be brought under control. The Westmount security officers were no longer needed to police the construction workers, and that was very promising, very rewarding, and I'm glad there was some follow-up. I think it was important. On Friday 29th, on April 26th, there was some congestion. And it was very interesting because the construction people were out there trying to get the traffic going and not provide congestion, so that was a good part of it. However, as of May 12th, it all started again, and I have pictures to show you how the congestion was there. We were down to one lane, cars couldn't even get through.
Okay.
And also, I
So,
have some pictures.
Is your question, what can we do about the?
I don't have a question.
Oh.
I'm just making an
A
awareness.
statement,
I'm not questioning, I'm not asking, I'm not demanding.
okay.
Just making an awareness, because I'm there, you're not.
So
So
I am
I'm just-
actually, because I'm at ECS once a day. So I see the pandemonium of Montrose and the impact of the construction trucks there.
And the other thing on Montrose, and on Claremont, I mentioned that we had these large trucks, which were 2.5, 3 times the length of the snow trucks that remove the snow. And they're very heavy, and they're destroying the streets, as I mentioned before. I don't want to belabor the point. But I have a very interesting picture. This one truck parked in a zone where it was for residents who have permits, and the back end of the truck parked in a handicap.
On Claremont.
On Claremont. There's pictures of it for you. And I have lots of pictures. But the thing is that this just, to me, reiterates the disregard that the people having construction done on the properties, the construction companies, have no regard for the Westmount property, the streets, and the regulations. So I'm just pointing that out.
So thank you for your commentary, and if you have any pictures that you want to share, please leave them.
If I just wanted to
We're-
cover a little bit more.
Okay, I'm mindful of time.
No,
And
that's why I stood at the
it
back.
being question period, but yes.
Okay. The question comes up because I'm in the Ontario area, Brockville, and in April 13th, a nice Sunday drive. I drove through Lynn Village. That's where the Burnbury Eggs all started. And I went down a country road. I have pictures of the country road. And interestingly enough, what they had posted on the road were signs indicating maximum tons.
Okay.
And then another sign, load constriction. And the Ontario Highway Commission are very strict. And when you look at the picture where those were taken, and you look at that early spring road,
Yeah.
you'll see the good condition it's in.
So, okay, thank you for your
So,
feedback.
and there's other things here, I'm not going to
Okay.
re-enter it, but you have lots of information
You've
there.
shared a lot of information for tonight.
I know.
And any photos that you want to leave, you're very welcome to leave. We have truck routes within the city, but it doesn't, obviously, if you're doing, doesn't mean a truck can never go on a certain street. It has to be going there for a reason. And I would encourage residents, we have, bylaws in place, but I would encourage residents, be good neighbors. If you are doing construction and you're leaving debris on the street, our street sweepers cannot do it. They're meant to be like the dust on the street. It's not meant to be an inch thick of construction debris that's been left onto the road. Our street sweeper can't clean that up. So I guess it's a call to action of people to be good neighbors. Montrose is a weird particular situation, in houses that have been gutted and renovated are now being once again gutted and renovated. And so residents that have lived through this long process for the houses over the past decade are now living through it again, as the exact same houses are being gutted and renovated. So
It never bothers me, it's their right, but there's one thing that I would suggest, that Westmount, before you start repaving streets, regulate the loads of
Okay.
vehicles
Thank
and
you.
everything on it.
Thank you
And
for that
in-
suggestion.
And in the mood of hawking, I'll give you a stick.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the game just started, so go Oilers.
Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you. Next question, prochaine question.
Thank you for the elongation. My name's Sean Burke. I live in NDG, but I spend most of my days in Westmount walking and training with dogs. And I think everyone's aware that the dog park material is a bone of contention, no pun intended, for a lot of people. I'm here to offer a solution, and I'm just wondering what would be the way for me to proceed with the city in developing this idea that I have to fix or at least mitigate the dust issue in the parks.
You're welcome to write to any of us, and we will make sure that your questions or your comments or your advice is looked at. And I'm not sure where we are at, but I think we're probably getting close to the end of life for some of those dog runs in terms of the materials. So send it in, and they will certainly look at it.
When you say end of life, what does that mean?
Like when we have to replace, so like we maintain, and then eventually you have to replace. So I'm not sure where we are at exactly in that schedule. I don't have an update on that. But if you send me an email, I'm very easy to find online, as is the rest of council. You can send an email, and I will make sure the administration gets your information.
Okay. Mary, I'm Sean Burke that you were speaking with, just so you have a face. Yeah.
And you could also write it directly to Councillor Gallery, who's the Commissioner for Parks.
That's great. If I were to develop something to fix the problem, would the city block me from using it on my own terms?
I don't know what, I'm not sure.
To rake the park?
If you wanted to rake the park,
Yeah. Would the city stop me from raking the sand or the leaves or the grass? Volunteer?
I don't know if I have an answer to that. I mean, I think we see people doing that. I see others in the audience who do work at Summit Woods. So I think we encourage citizen engagement. But there's been other times where people have put up tents in the dog runs, and we can't have that because they're not secure, and they can, like, that was you, okay. So, which I totally understand, and I think that's where you could certainly make a request for it to have, like, could we put in a permanent structure for shade and then we'll look at that, see how we can do it, where it could go, if it can go somewhere, and it would meet the safety standards that we're required to meet within our parks.
Okay. I'd also like to offer my insight and experience with the dogs if anyone had a question about maybe do we do this, do we do that?
Happily.
So I'll be in touch with
We
you.
are easy to find, and you're welcome to get in touch, and we'll try and set up a time where we can talk.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's it for questions in the room. So we will do, I think, some of the questions online. Sometimes we get people upset that they don't get their questions before the, how many online do we? 2 are gone, right?
1, 2, 3.
We could do those now.
So the first question is from Darlene Zucker. How is it possible that Westmount allows pesticides on lawns in Westmount as well as gas lawnmowers, but when gas leaf blowers are not allowed?
Thank you for your question. You are right, gas leaf blowers are allowed. Lawnmowers are allowed. We started with leaf blowers. It's funny to think back of the chaos that I caused when I banned gas leaf blowers, but anyways, when now it's just the norm and it's easily done and everybody can manage it. There are no pesticides in our public parks and our public spaces that we use as a city. And the Environment Division of Public Works is currently writing a pesticide bylaw, which will be very similar to Montreal's no pesticide bylaw. In the meantime, we always ask residents to refrain from using pesticides on their own lawns nonetheless, but we do not use them in our public parks and green spaces.
I would like to comment, please.
Sure.
We are having some issues in District 1 regarding the electric leaf blowers. Unfortunately, this year, due to bad weather conditions, the electric leaf blowers are just not performing as well as the gas ones. So I am aware of this problem. It is a safety problem in District 1. The landscapers are requesting that for District 1, an exception be made when there is very bad weather because the electric leaf blowers just don't work. They now have to use generators to charge the electric leaf blowers, so we're not ahead here. So I think it's much more important that we allow the gas blowers to work when the weather's bad so that they can quickly solve the problem. Otherwise, we have the safety problem in District 1. Thank you.
Thank you for your commentary, and I'm glad to say that we don't have an issue in some of our larger green spaces like King George Park and Westmount Park. So, thank you.
Next question from
With
Frederick
electric leaf blowers. Anyway, go.
From
The next
Frederick
one.
Gervin. Madam Mayor, since becoming mayor, what would you do differently and what would be exactly the same for the Sud-Est project?
Since becoming mayor, what would you do differently and what would you do the same? Be interesting if you just put a period at the end of that and I could go on for hours. But for the Sud-Est project, I think, unfortunately, we can't go back in time. This obviously was, something in 2017 we had discussed. It was, if you look at my campaign materials from when I ran for mayor, this was one of, I think I had 5 bullets in there. This was one of the 5 bullets that was in there. And what I wish had been done differently is the work that Dawson had done to relocate to St. Catherine Street for such a critical program that they were going to expand to there. And that was sort of became our anchor of how we were going to revitalize the street. And then just this current Quebec government, and it's not just Westmount, it is all municipalities, plays such a heavy hand with municipalities, and in my opinion is like truly broken the social contract. Just canceled that expansion that is so needed. I encourage anyone to go stand in Dawson on a full, like in the middle of a week at noon, and you will see why that school needs an expansion. So I wish that we had been able to move quicker after Dawson the expansion had been canceled and moved towards this. And we had been recommended to do the PPU as way back in 2017. Clément Demers and the Agile group had recommended doing a PPU for this area. So things in municipalities take time. So if I could walk back, I would have, I wish we could have been able to turn that around quicker after the Dawson, the incredibly disappointing cancellation of the Dawson expansion, which I hope one day maybe Dawson will end up on St. Catherine Street, which would be a great addition to the street. So thank you. In short, that's what I would do.
And the last question, there's a lot of commentary on it, so I'm just going to focus on the question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Regarding the Westmount Southeast, during the special council meeting, you had mentioned a petition that got 525 units of housing blocked in Nuns Island. Does council have any intention of letting a tiny petition cause something similar to happen, or can a bylaw be passed to prevent this?
So this question is from Jessica Winton. And I'll just add a bit more, I'm just reading it here. I think what she's referring to a project that is happening right now at I guess we call it the Bell campus. It's in the Verdun, arrondissement de Verdun, and 26 signatures. So this is very different. It's not a PPU, it's an actual zoning change. And 26 signatures were able to block this project. And the intention of that legislation can go way back, and that's, for a much longer discussion, if anyone wants to have it for me, then be outside of question period. But the spirit of that law was not so, the spirit of that law was that, you should be able to have a right and a say as to what your community is going to look like, but not to block it. The spirit isn't so that you can forever block any entry of anyone else into that community. And so when you look at how large the population is of Verdun and Nuns Island, and the growing that's happened there, and the construction, and it's 26 signatures at the end to block what's a project of incredibly needed housing. That's just an imbalance. And so the City of Montreal is moving ahead with this project by invoking their powers within Projet de Loi 31, which allows for them to override this referendum process when housing is needed. And so they're using that tool. That is not a tool that we need to or would use within this PPU, because this is it's a different urban planning tool. But I think the more and more that happens, I think that the more governments, and certainly, and this comes from the provincial level, will look at, is this the right tool? Does this legislation meet the moment? And I think what you would find, certainly if I was a provincial legislator, I would say, no, I don't think this meets the moment. We saw this in Westmount where they were short, I think, one signature in the end, but a building that exists because they demolished I guess it was a heritage-type building, and they built on that, and then they started a petition to block the building next door, which is in what is one of the old armories, the Hillside Armory, and they were just short one signature, and it was because we don't want construction, we don't want people for various reasons, but the ability to block that was quite easy for a building that is already built, for a footprint that already exists. We saw it at 4998 de Maisonneuve, where it never went through, but there was, some discussion of that, and there was, huge uproar from a small group around for a building that already existed. So I think, it's not going to be necessarily within the municipal jurisdiction of Westmount won't be able to change it, but I won't be surprised if there is some change from the province on this. Anyone else want to add to my long-winded response on that? No, but I want to also thank Jessica Winton, who has been a part of all of these public consultations and brings a student voice, which isn't always part of these, students don't always come to municipal public consultations. She's not here as she says in the beginning of her question, she's not here because unfortunately she has to attend her graduation ceremony tonight. But it is important that they also have a voice at this table because the access to housing is incredibly difficult for that age group. Next question? Or is that it? I think that's it, right? OK, on va commencer avec la prochaine section. Adoption of the agenda. L'adoption de l'ordre du jour numéro 4, c'est conseiller Gallery.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Je propose que l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 9 juin 2025 soit adopté.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Monsieur Aronson. All in favor?
Aye.
Numéro 5, approbation des procès-verbaux. Encore, Madame Gallery.
I move that the minutes of the regular council sitting held on May 5th, 2025 be approved, and that the minutes of the special council sittings held on April 10th and 22nd, 2025 also be approved.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Aronson. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item 6.1, 6.1, le dépôt... Oh, le quoi? OK, il est là maintenant? OK, merci. 6.1, le dépôt de procès-verbaux du correction résolution 2025-05-116, la greffière adjointe de la Ville.
Oui, donc conformément à l'article 92.1 de la loi sur les cités et villes, je dépose le procès-verbal de correction portant sur la résolution 2025-05-116.
Merci beaucoup. Puis le 6.2, dépôt du procès-verbal de correction résolution 2025-05-122, la greffière adjointe de la Ville, encore.
Donc, encore une fois, conformément à l'article 92.1 de la loi sur les cités et villes, je dépose le procès-verbal de correction portant sur la résolution 2025-05-122.
Merci beaucoup. 6.3, c'est le dépôt du procès-verbal du correction résolution 2025-05-133.
Donc, encore une fois, conformément à l'article 92.1 de la loi sur les cités et villes, je dépose le procès-verbal de correction portant sur la résolution 2025-05-133.
Merci beaucoup. Puis, les rapports au Conseil, 6.4, 27 documents sont déposés. Ça, c'est nouveau, que je ne liste pas les 27, c'est juste 27 documents. C'est beau?
Vous lisez les titres habituellement?
Des fois, mais c'est correct. Les procès, 6.5, procès-verbaux du comité plénier, c'est le conseiller Gallery.
The minutes of the General Committee of the Council meetings held on April 7th and 22nd, 2025, and May 5th, 2025 are tabled and are available on the city's website.
Merci beaucoup. Le 6.6, le rapport de la main-d'œuvre, conseiller Chamy.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Le rapport de la main-d'œuvre pour le mois de mai 2025 est maintenant déposé.
Merci. 6.7, c'est le registre des paiements, conseiller D'Amico.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. La liste des paiements pour le mois d'avril 2025 est déposée.
Merci beaucoup. 6.6, liste des approbations en vertu du règlement 1507, c'est conseiller Chamy.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Conformément au règlement 1507, sur la délégation de pouvoir à certains employés de la Ville de Westmount, la liste d'autorisation des dépenses pour le mois d'avril 2025 est maintenant déposée.
Merci beaucoup. 6.9, la liste des facturations, droits de mutation, c'est conseiller D'Amico.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The list of duties on transfers for the month of April 2025 are tabled.
Thank you very much. Numéro 7, les affaires générales et administration, General Business and Administration. It is Councillor D'Amico, allocation of funds, 2025 election budget and approval of the election remuneration of electoral staff budget. Le conseiller D'Amico.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Donc, entendu que les élections municipales 2025 se tiendront le 2 novembre 2025, attendu qu'un fonds a été créé afin de couvrir les dépenses électorales, attendu qu'une grille de tarifs de rémunération du personnel électoral et un budget ont été dressés en vue des dites élections, attendu que la présidente d'élection recommande l'affectation de fonds supplémentaires pour couvrir toutes les dépenses électorales possibles, I move that the remuneration rate schedule for election staff and the budget for the 2025 elections submitted to Council allocate the additional amount of $116,375 to the existing fund for the 2025 general elections from the unassigned surplus and charge the said amount in accordance with the financial information listed in decision-making file number 5245.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Chamy. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. That is standard budgeting allocation for the election, which will take place in November. Item number 8, agreement temporary occupation of the public domain, Sherbrooke Valois Incorporé, entente occupation temporaire du domaine public, Sherbrooke Valois Incorporé. C'est le conseiller Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move that Valois be authorized to temporarily occupy the public domain by installing and maintaining distribution boxes for the newspaper in the locations and under the conditions specified in the agreement attached to this resolution. That this authorization to temporarily occupy the public domain for the installation and maintenance of distribution boxes for the newspaper be given only in the event of a strike and/or lockout at Canada Post. That this authorization be granted conditionally upon the signing of the agreement attached to decision-making file number 5243.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. So Valois, for those who don't know, is actually the Westmount Independent. And given the distribution method of the Westmount Independent, should we have another postal strike, which it seems is a high possibility, this is just solidifying the agreement with where we can have those boxes, because we don't typically allow, this is an exception, we don't typically allow private companies to be putting their goods on the public domain, and that's what's happening. But in the interest of the public, that's why this agreement is taking place. So, seconded by Councillor Gallery. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 9, numéro 9, de renouvellement de contrat avec ATI Inc. offre cloud services. I don't know how to pronounce. INFONUAGIQUES et Microsoft 365. C'est conseiller Chamy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the cloud computing contract entered by the city and ITI Inc. on May 31st, 2022, be renewed for a period of 3 years from May 31st, 2025 to May 31st, 2028, that the Director of Information Technology Department be authorized to sign for the city all documents concerning the renewal of the said contract and its implementation, that the amount of $404,050.66 be authorized for expenditures related to this contract, including an amount of $71,740.69, including tax credits for the year 2025, and that finally the required amounts be allocated according to the financial information contained in decision-making file 5157.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Aronson. Any further comments? All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 10, ajout de fonds expertise par ATKINRÉALIS. And this one is Councillor Peart. Oh, you're leaving the room. Yeah, this one's Councillor Gallery. Sorry, Councillor Peart is leaving the room because of that. I don't think you need to. No. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that an amount of $12,283.32, taxes included, be added to purchase order BC028357 for ATKINRÉALIS, otherwise known as SNC-Lavalin, Inc., that these amounts be allocated in accordance with the financial information included in decision-making file number 5242.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Chamy. It's a minimal amount, but has to be done. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number, Councillor Peart can come back in. Whenever there's a not a conflict, but. He's going to wait till 15? Okay. So we have quorum without him. So number 11, amendment to contract collection and transport of recyclable materials, PUB 2023-040 is Councillor Aronson.
Thank you, Madam Mayoress. So, item 11, right. Whereas the City of Westmount entered into an intermunicipal agreement with the cities of Pointe-Claire, Côte-Saint-Luc, and Dollar-des-Ormeaux for the collection and transportation of recyclable materials, Resolution 2023-11-310. And whereas under this agreement, the City of Westmount is responsible for awarding the contract to all the cities under PUB 2023-040. And whereas the partnership with Éco-Entreprise Québec, which is now required under a regulation respecting system of selective collection of certain residual materials, was approved by Council on December the 4th, 2023, and that was Resolution 2023-12-315. And whereas that the contract for the collection and transportation of recyclable materials, PUB 2023-040, was awarded by Council on February the 5th, 2024 to WM Quebec Inc., and that was Resolution 2024-0229. And whereas the contracts for the collection and transportation of recyclable materials, for these contracts, the EEQ requires the addition of some specific clauses which are not found in contract PUB 2023-40. I move that contract PUB 2023-40 be amended with the addition of revised clauses for price adjustment and the adjustment of the number of occupancy units and containers served, as requested by the EEQ, which are attached to this resolution, and that the addendum to contract PUB 2023-040 be prepared to include the required clauses and be signed by the city and WM Quebec Incorporated, and that the city clerk be authorized to sign for and in the name of the city the addendum to the contract PUB 2023-040.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Any further comments on this? This is, we do group with to be more efficient with cities when we're a smaller city.
Yeah, and so we had to amend this contract slightly in order to, the amendment concerns certain clauses that allow this contract to have certain built-in increases in costs year over year for things like CPI increase or the amount, a change in the amount of service, et cetera. This is a standard thing that's done in recycling contracts.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. All in favor? Carried. And on a similar note, item number 12, which has similar whereases, so you could just go straight to the...
Right to the motion itself.
Yeah.
This is for the actual annual adjustment of collection and transportation of recyclable materials. So I move that the cost for the collection and transportation of recyclable materials provided in contract PUB 2023-40 be adjusted and set at $554,300. You're right. I'm sorry. It's late. $557,305.97, taxes included. And further, that a maximum expenditure of $508,894.64, including tax credits, be approved for the collection and transportation of recyclable materials, PUB 2023-40, and that these amounts be allocated in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 5075.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor D'Amico. Any further comments on this? No?
Recycling's expensive, please use it.
Yeah. All in favor? Carried. Item number 13. Numéro 13, c'est un octroi du contrat de travaux agricoles pour abattage et essouchement, PUB 2024-049. Awarding of a contract for arboricultural work for tree felling and stump removal. This is Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. J'autorise une dépense de 145 678 et 3 sous, incluant le crédit de taxe pour l'abattage d'arbres publics morts ou dangereux et l'enlèvement de leurs souches sur l'ensemble du territoire de la ville de Westmount pour l'année 2025, appel d'offres public PUB 2024-049, accordé à Arbre NB Inc. le contrat 7 fin au prix de sa soumission pour une somme maximale de 159 536,44 $, taxes incluses, le tout conformément au document contractuel de l'appel d'offres public PUB 2024-049, imputer cette dépense conformément aux informations financières inscrites au sommaire décisionnel numéro 5039.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Madame Gallery. Do you have any further comments? You want to talk? I mean, our tree canopy requires investment and maintenance, and at times that requires trees to come down and be replanted. Donc, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 14, awarding of a contract supply maintenance and plant, oh no, that was, no, that's another one. Awarding of a contract supply maintenance and planting of trees, PUB 2025-007. This is Councillor Gallery.
I move to authorize an expense of $84,407.85, including tax credit for the supply, planting, and maintenance of new public trees throughout the territory of the City of Westmount. Call for tenders, PUB 2025-007. Award the contract to Terrassement Technique Sylvain Labrec, Inc. at its bid price for a maximum amount of $92,437.60, taxes included, in accordance with the contractual documents of public call for tenders, PUB 2025-007, and to allocate this expense according to the financial information described in decision-making file number 5127.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Aronson. Seconded by Councillor Aronson. Any further comments?
Investment in the canopy.
Perfect. All in favor? Carried. Next item, request is item number 15, demande de proposition service professionnel pour la réfection de l'escalier Thornhill, DDP 2025-008. This is for the Thornhill stairs. This is, Councillor Peart is recusing himself, but Councillor Shammy will read the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $98,622.63, including tax credits for the repair of the Thornhill Stairs, request for proposals DDP 2025-008, and award to Ponton Guillot Inc. the contract for this purpose in accordance with its proposal for a maximum amount of $130,122.96, taxes included, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the request for proposal DDP 2025-008, and finally to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 5160.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Any further comments on this?
There's stairs in my district that need love.
There's stairs all throughout the city that are getting an investment this year, but we cannot do all of them. And they are incredibly expensive to do because of the concrete, the masonry, all of the work around stairs is incredibly expensive, and the retaining walls, as we've seen with the Roslyn Park stairs. So all those in favor? Aye. Carried. Councillor Peart can come back in now. There we go. Item number 16 is again Councillor Gallery. Octroi de contrat de réfection des sentiers de parc, PUB 2025-031. Awarding of the contract for the refurbishment of park trails. Councillor Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I authorize an expenditure of $540,643.63, including the tax credit, to build and replace existing trails in King George and Westmount Parks. Public call for tenders, PUB 2025-031, to award the contract to Les Entreprises Ventec, Inc. at its bid price for a maximum amount of $592,075.26, taxes included, in accordance with the contractual documents of public call for tenders, PUB-2025-031, and finally, to allocate this expense according to the financial information described in decision-making file number 5163.
I'm sure Councillor Roux would like to second this, who has advocated very strongly for the safety of pedestrians within, with not just King George Park, but in
two main
particular
parks.
In King George Park, but also, and Councillor Gallery, who has worked hard on this. So Councillor Roux, I know, is a happy seconder. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 17, numéro 18. Mandate to the Union des Municipalités de Québec for professional services to carry out greenhouse gas emissions inventory until January 23rd, 2028. And this is going to be Councillor Aronson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the motion specifically states that the preamble forms a part of this.
Yeah.
Which I'm gonna,
Sorry,
guys.
You are allowed to read it without commentary from me as to the length of your statement.
Thank you. Whereas the City of Westmount has received a proposal from the Union des Municipalités de Québec, the UMQ, to participate in a group purchase of professional services for greenhouse gas emission inventories until January the 23rd, 2028. And whereas the UMQ, pursuant to a call for tenders GES 2024, has begun a purchasing group valid until January 23rd, 2028, with the firm MNP. And whereas Section 29.9.1 of the Cities and Towns Act allows a municipality to enter into an agreement with the UMQ concerning professional services for greenhouse gas emission inventories, specifies that the rules governing the awarding of contracts by a municipality apply to the contracts awarded under this section, and that the UMQ undertakes to comply with these rules, specifies that the contractual process is subject to Règlement numéro 26 sur la gestion contractuelle de l'UMQ pour ses ententes de regroupement adopted by the UMQ Board of Directors. And whereas the City of Westmount wishes to participate in this group purchase to procure professional services for the realization of greenhouse gas emissions inventories to meet its needs. And whereas the city wishes to avail itself of the proposed professional services in order to, 1, draw up a shared inventory of GHG emissions in the territory, and 2, identify targets for reducing GHG emissions and draw up an action plan, I move that the preamble form an integral part hereof as if read in its entirety. Further, I move that the City of Westmount entrust the UMQ with the mandate of preparing, on its behalf, a tender document for the purpose of awarding a group purchase contract for the professional services concerning the production of greenhouse gas emissions inventories as required by the city until January the 23rd, 2023. Further, I move that the city undertake to comply with the terms of the contract awarded by the UMQ as if it had contracted directly with the supplier to whom the contract is awarded. I further move that if the UMQ awards a contract, the city undertakes to pay for the services rendered under a call for tenders, under call for tenders GES 2024 in accordance with the contract's terms and conditions. I move that the city acknowledge the UMQ will receive directly from the successful bidder as management fees a percentage of the amount invoiced before taxes to each of its participants, and this percentage is set at 2%. I move that an amount of $19,838.94, including taxes, be set aside for these professional services in accordance with the financial information contained in decision-making file 5143. And finally, I move that a copy of this resolution be transmitted to the Union des Municipalités de Québec.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. What? Sorry, I
just wanted to say that I'm ecstatic. It's going to be, I think, the beginning of the green accounting. So it's going to allow us to quantify some of the accounting for the GHG. So I'm really happy and ecstatic about this. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is an example where the UMQ is very useful because it'll use standards that will then be recommended and accepted to Quebec as the standards for accounting for our greenhouse gas emissions. I'm very glad that Westmount is part of this trial. I now sit on the UMQ board, actually, and this is one of the issues that we have talked about. Is it's important, and especially for smaller municipalities, to have the support of an outside organization that really knows how to help us through this process. So, seconded by Councillor Gallery, and if there was a third, it would be Councillor D'Amico. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 18, awarding of the contract repairs to Avenue Wood between St. Catherine Street and de Maisonneuve Boulevard West, PUB 2025-032. Interestingly enough, this is exactly where the majority of the protests take place, will be under construction. So, it is Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I authorize an expenditure of $899,255.52, including tax credit, for the repair of Wood Avenue between St. Catherine Street and de Maisonneuve Boulevard West, in accordance with the contractual documents of call for tenders PUB 2025-032, to award the contract to Les Entreprises Ventec, Inc. at its bid price for a maximum amount of $994,316.45, taxes included, that the awarding of this contract and its financing remain conditional to obtaining the financing related to bylaw 1624, authorizing an expenditure and a loan of $18,238,400 for various roadwork, water main, and sewer projects. To allocate this expense according to the financial information described in decision-making file number 5161.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Is this part of the road is in her district and is badly in need of repair? All in favor? Carried. Item number 19, octroi du contrat achat d'asphalte chaud pour l'année 2025, awarding of the contract for purchase of hot mix asphalt for 2025 is Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hot mix asphalt. I move to authorize an expenditure of $50,391.38, including tax credits, for the purchase of hot mix asphalt, and to award the contract to Construction DGL Inc. for a maximum amount of $55,185.13, taxes included, for the year 2025, to allocate this expense according to the financial information described in the decision-making file 5078.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Peart. Straightforward. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number, against?
You against? No, I'm not against.
Oh, Madame Rude didn't, she hadn't raised. Okay. All in favor once again? Item number 20, awarding of contract of professional services for quality control of materials as part of the infrastructure work. And this is Councillor Peart again.
Yes, no conflict of interest this time. I authorize an expenditure of $90,667.21, including the tax credit for the quality control of materials used in infrastructure works, call for tenders by invitation, INV 2025-014. Award the contract to Génie Innovation 9152-4629 Quebec Inc. at its bid price for a maximum amount of $99,292.41. Taxes included, in accordance with the contractual documents of the call for tenders by invitation INB 2025-014, to allocate this expense according to the financial information described in decision-making file number 5136.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Aronson. Any further comments? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Monsieur Shammy. Item 21, awarding of contract minor civil works for Hydro Westmount, PUB 2025-030. 20. Mine says 21. 21, okay, civil works. Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. J'autorise une dépense de $376 589, incluant le crédit de taxe pour les travaux mineurs de maintenance et d'urgence sur le réseau d'Hydro-Westmount, appel d'offres public PUB 2025-030, accordé à Lorrain Inc. le contrat à cette fin au prix de sa soumission pour une somme maximale de $432 983,20 sous, taxes incluses, le tout conformément aux documents contractuels de l'appel d'offres public PUB 2025-030. Imputer cette dépense conformément aux informations financières inscrites au sommaire décisionnel numéro 5133.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par M. D'Amico, conseiller D'Amico. D'autres, I should have done Shammy for Hydro, mais c'est correct. M. D'Amico, any other comments? No? All in favor? Carried. Awarding of contract supply of Aclara electric meters, PUB 2025-029. Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to authorize an expenditure of $177,650 even, including tax credits for the purchase of Aclara meters. Call for tender PUB 2024-029, and to award this contract to Les Industries Gestec Inc. at its bid price for a maximum amount of $204,253.09. Taxes included in accordance with the contractual documents of public call for tenders PUB 2025-029, and finally to allocate this expense according to the financial information described in the decision-making file 5158.
Merci beaucoup. Seconded by Councillor Aronson. Any further comments on this? No? All in favor? There we go. Awarding of contract purchase of Washington-type LED streetlights for Hydro Westmount. INV 2025-017. Item 23 is Councillor Shammy again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. These are our annual Washington lights. I authorize an expenditure of $96,567.01, including tax credits for the replacement of Cobra luminaire with decorative Washington LED streetlights. Call for tender by invitation INV 2025-017, and award the contract to Metal Pole Light Inc. at its bid price for a maximum amount of $105,754.01. Taxes included in accordance with the contractual documents of call for tender by invitation INV 2025-017. And finally, to allocate this expense according to the financial information described in the decision-making file 5151.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Roux. Any further comments on the Washington lights? All in favor? Carried. Another hydro file, item 24, octroi de contrat reconstruction des puits d'accès PA 115 et 116 d'Hydro-Westmount PUB 2025-003. C'est Conseiller Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to authorize an expenditure of $838,975 even, including tax credits for the reconstruction of underground access shafts, PA 115 and PA 116, public call for tenders PUB 2025-003, and to award the contract to Construction NRC Inc. at its bid price for a maximum amount of $964,611.51, taxes included, in accordance with the contractual documents of the public call for tender PUB 2025-003, and to allocate this expense according to the financial information described in decision-making file 5134.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor D'Amico. Any further comments?
Nope, straightforward.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 25, octroi des fonds à BCA Avocats Incorporé, défense juridique dossier 517 132 979 256 is Councillor Kez.
Le litige est couvert par la police d'assurance de Lloyds. Attendu que l'assureur a mandaté la cabinet BCA Avocat Inc. pour représenter la ville dans l'instance. Entendu que, dans le cas de ce litige, il est dans le meilleur intérêt de la ville de constater ce litige et produire une défense adéquate. Je propose que le montant de $500,000, taxes inclus, soit accordé en fin d'acquitter. 50 000.
Not 500.
Oh.
Wow.
Ça va être cher, ça, quand même. Hein? 50 000, taxes inclus, soit accordé en fin d'acquitter les frais judiciaires de BCA Avocat Inc. en lien avec le dossier numéro 500, 13 Union, 17, 13 Union, 13, 29, 79, 13 Union, 256, des dossiers de la Cour supérieure du district judiciaire de Montréal, le tout conformant aux informations financières incluses au sommaire décisionnel numéro 5144 que la greffière soit autorisée de signer tout document nécessaire pour assurer la défense de la ville, y compris tous actes à titre de représentant de la ville dans le dit dossier.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Aronson. Before the courts, but I don't know if you have any further comments.
Yeah, we're being sued for damages to a property caused by the rainstorm last August.
August in the mega storm.
And so, but this being covered by our insurance.
Merci beaucoup. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 26, mandate for legal representation, IMK Avocat Inc., and this is again Councillor Kez.
Whereas the city has received an application for judicial review of the validity of Bylaw 1522 concerning dogs and licensing thereof, which is open under file number 500-17-134-236-259 in the records of the Superior Court of the Judicial District of Montreal. I move to award to law firm IMK Avocat Inc. the mandate to represent and defend the interests of the City of Westmount following the filing of the originating application bearing number 500-17-134-236-259 of the records of the Superior Court of the Judicial District of Montreal, that the city clerk be authorized to sign for and in the name of the city all legal documents aimed at protecting the city's interests in connection with the litigation, as well as documents necessary for the execution of the mandate awarded to IMK Avocat Inc., that an amount of $30,000, taxes included, be allocated to pay the legal fees in this matter, all in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 5244.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. This is obviously, this is something that cities have to deal with from time to time, where if a resident disagrees with a bylaw, but we have full confidence that everything is in order, but unfortunately, this is something that we have to partake. So all those in favor? Aye. Against? Okay.
I'd like to make a commentary.
Sure.
Madame la mairesse, donc, dans la vie, il ne faut pas avoir peur d'appeler un chat un chat. Autrement dit, il ne faut pas avoir peur d'appeler les choses par leur vrai nom. Madam Mayor, it's important to be able to call a spade a spade. I know that we're very far on this issue, but the only thing we agree on, you and I, is that Summit Woods is a public treasure. As you know, the issues of public health, public order, and the protection of the public purse are very dear to my heart. This is a very complex issue, and I want to thank all these citizens that wrote me over the last year on this issue. So I've received a lot of comments, I received a lot of feedback, it was really a learning experience for me. But I really relied upon the Minister of Municipal Affairs to really seek their advice on what is the appropriate course of action. So as you know, I made public statements in the past. They're basically the person at the ministry have provided the name of the person to council and to the mayor and to the director general and to the city's legal counsel. So in summary, I know I've repeated this several times, but in summary, the person said that you should get a letter of confirmation from the DG, from the insurance company, that the city is covered in the event of a claim against the city due to an off-leash dog attack at Summit Woods. When I say it's an issue of public health, you could say, well, what is the proof that public health is at stake? Well, obviously, the person at the ministry said, the minute you start getting dog bites, you augment the probability of a claim against the city. So I obtained, through access to information, 2 dog bite reports. One of them is dated December 10, 2024. Basically, this was an attack that happened at Summit Woods by an off-leash dog. I know the public is not aware, but anyway, just so that you know, this dog attacked the person several times. I have a second dog bite report. This one is dated This one is dated January 5, 2025. So in a span of 2 months, you have 2 dog bites and 2 dog bite reports. I'll just read this one. This is a shorter one. It's been redacted, so the names of those involved will not be made public, and I do not have them. So the complainant presented at Public Security Office on January 4, 2025, requesting a report be made for a dog bite incident that occurred on January 2, 2025 in Summit Woods. So it's even closer than the complainant declares that while walking in Summit Woods, a large unleashed dog lunged at the person, rammed into the right leg, and also put out the left arm to protect, went to the hospital for leg pain. Report to be awaiting declaration and dog owner info. So in a span of just 3 weeks, you have 2 dog bite reports. I don't know how many total dog bites reports we have. This bylaw is clearly unsafe. The second, if I may.
Have your opinion. Anyways,
Yeah,
we
the
have
second
other items to get
part
through.
of the advice that I was given from the ministry is that to ask the city's legal counsel a letter of confirmation from the law firm that gave the legal opinion that the city used to pass this bylaw. So I know this is a complex case. I'll try to be as brief as I can and summarize it. In the opinion of the ministry, if you don't get a letter of confirmation from the law firm that gave the legal opinion, you cannot say that you relied on that legal opinion to draft your bylaw. Because according to the ministry, you do need that
not
letter
accurate.
of confirmation.
No, it's not how any of that works, but
So I called the ministry 3 times, and I called them this morning again, just to make sure that this information is correct. It was confirmed to me 3 times. So you don't meet public safety, you don't meet public health, you don't meet public order, and you don't meet protection of the public purse because you're spending money. You spend money on the first legal opinion. You're spending another $30,000 here, and you have a low probability of winning this case because it's clear in my mind, based on all the legal people I've consulted in the municipal field, that this potentially contravenes the provincial law.
Councillor Aronson.
That's all I- that's all I
Councillor
have to say.
Aronson is going to have some commentary. This is obviously, we have a serious agreement on this. When we have outside legal counsel on things, they don't then write us a confirmation that their advice to us on all the many, 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 many files that we have outside legal counsel that advise on it. Council is decisionary. This bylaw is perfectly acceptable. Mr. D'Amico disagrees with the bylaw, but it doesn't make it unlawful. And that is where I have a serious disagreement, because you can't just say things are unlawful when they are not. You can disagree about them, but you can't say it's unlawful. Councillor Aronson, and then we're going to move on because we've already spent too much time on this issue.
Well, briefly put, Madam Mayor.
And we never received, so just so you all know, the MAMASH is in constant communication with the City of Westmount over various things. We have never received any written indication, no information from the MAMASH, from any level of the ministry. I know Councillor Aronson has spoken with them on other issues as well, from this same person. And we stand by this bylaw, and there will not be a city in the province of Quebec or in Canada that is not dealing with a dog bite at a certain point, at some point. And how you manage those is you deal with dangerous dogs. And I can say that the City of Westmount takes the dangerous dog situation extremely seriously, so that other cities that have neglected their duty, which then find themselves in difficult situations, are not like Westmount. We take our dangerous dogs very, very seriously. We recently have had, we do a continual evaluation of them, and we will put in measures that are put in place to protect other dogs, other people, other owners, and we enforce this. And what we also find is that our citizens really help us with this, and that they are eyes and ears on the street. And that's often how we hear about things, or that they see it first and they call something in, and our public security acts very quickly. So we have had to review some, and we've had, if you want to talk about our most grave situations have not taken place in Summit Woods, have taken place near Summit Woods, but we recently had a dog very violently attack another dog that was on a leash. This dog was not on a leash. It was on it was on a private property. And we take that very seriously, and we will take very severe steps to deal with that. So I leave it to Councillor Aronson, but I think we've spent enough time on that issue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did want to speak to this because I am noticing, unfortunately, that when we allow disinformation to enter the public sphere without countering it with explanation or without offering correct information to set the public record straight, unfortunately, it tends to cause a great deal of strife within our community as residents expect those who are elected to our positions and sit in these seats to speak with professionalism, with diligence, and to speak responsibly. As an attorney and a member of a bar, I take the charge that we would knowingly pass a bylaw that contravenes the law as an insult. The matter of fact is that we can have political disagreements. We can debate which policy is best for our community and which our residents would like to see most. But we always act with the highest degree of diligence in ensuring that when we do pass a bylaw or a policy, we do so in the spirit of ensuring that we are doing what is best for our community as a whole, and we are doing so legally. To impugn a decision of this council with a verbal report that is unverified and is offered by a frontline worker in the ministry to represent that these are the words of the ministry themselves or of the minister themselves over and over and over again, in my opinion, is unbecoming of a councillor elected to these positions. And so I would ask Mr. Domingo to take into consideration that simply because he disagrees with the way this council has acted does not mean that they have acted inappropriately or put anyone into any danger.
You, Councillor Aronson.
If I may, when a resident has a problem with a bylaw and thinks it ought to be reviewed by the courts, they're well within their rights to do exactly what this resident has done and challenge us in court. It is incumbent upon this council to ensure it stands by the bylaws it passes and defend them in court. This resident deserves their day in court. They deserve to be heard by a judge. They deserve to have a professional argue their case that we've done something inappropriate. They will lose because we have acted properly. But the one lone dissent on this vote tonight was to not fund our defense of this bylaw, to not present in court our explanation of how this citizen can depend on the activities of our administration and of this council and have it determined by a judge for the community as a whole. So I cast a vote tonight in favor of defending our bylaw, not only because I believe it is correct, but because I believe in the system. And once we have passed this bylaw, it is a policy of the city. This resident has a right to be heard and have their day in court. They will lose, but they have that right. To stand in the way of making that happen is inappropriate. Thank you.
Okay, so one dissenting vote, all else in favor. Thank you, Councillor Aronson. Now we move to urban planning items. Item number 27, dépôt des procès-verbaux des assemblées du comité consultatif d'urbanisme pour mai 2025. C'est Conseiller Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move that the council take note of and accept the tabling of the minutes of the Planning Advisory Committee, the PAC, for the following meetings. Regular meeting held on May 6th and 8th of 2025. The extraordinary meeting held on May 6th of 2025 for a minor exemption request.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Madame Gallery. All in favor? Hands up. Okay. Item number 28, approval of site planning and architectural integration programs. This is again Councillor Peart with a few more on the list this week.
That's right. It's the season. I move that council act on the recommendations of the Planning Advisory Committee, the PAC, as set out in the minutes of its regular meeting held on May 6th and 8th of 2025 and approve with respect to each of them the plans and permit conditions attached to the items below and as assessed in accordance with bylaw 1305 on the site planning and architectural integration program.
Thank you very much. Seconded again by Councillor Gallery. Anything you want to note on here?
Nothing to.
More windows and
single out.
doors. All in favor? Carried. Item 29, minor exemption application 4924 Sherbrooke Street West. This is again Councillor Peart.
Thank you, Madame la Mairesse. Forgive me, you'll have to indulge me
Yeah.
for the minor derogations. We do read the whereas clauses because they are often particular to each application. Excuse me. Whereas the City of Westmount's bylaw 1576 on minor exemptions, whereas a minor exemption must comply with the planning program's objectives, whereas the exemption is minor in quantitative terms, in terms of environmental impact and architectural terms. Whereas the application of the regulatory provisions targeted by the application causes serious harm to the person requesting the minor exemption. Whereas the exemption shall not hinder the owners of neighboring properties in the enjoyment of their rights of ownership. Whereas the exemption does not exacerbate safety or public health risk or affect the quality of the environment or general well-being. Whereas the minor exemption presented for 4924 Sherbrooke West aims to allow the conversion of the second floor of a two-story building from commercial to residential use without having to build the 5 parking spaces in addition to the existing one on lot 1580967, where the building is located as per section 5.5.2 of zoning bylaw 1303. Whereas the existing building is currently used for commercial purposes on the first and second floor, whereas the conversion of the second floor of the building from commercial to residential use requires 6 parking spaces on lot 1580967 as provided in section 5.5.2 of zoning bylaw 1303. Whereas there are no parking spaces available on lot 1580967 to accommodate 5 additional parking spaces in order to comply with section 5.5.2 of zoning bylaw 1303. Whereas the first floor of the concerned building would retain its commercial use, I move that the above preamble forms an integral part of this resolution. The council approves a minor exemption application request for 4924 Sherbrooke Street West, aimed at allowing the conversion of the second floor of a 2-story building from commercial to residential use without the need to create 5 parking spaces in addition to the existing one on the lot where the building is located, even though the paragraphs 1 and 4 of section 5.5.2 of zoning bylaw 1303 stipulate that after coming into force of this bylaw, no existing building may be established unless and until in the case of a one-family building, a private garage or parking area is established behind the building line on the lot or parcel of the land on which the building is constructed. 4, in the case of a building other than a residential or industrial building, a minimum of 1 parking space is established on the lot or parcel of land on which the building is constructed for every 500 square feet, 46.45 square meters, of the ground floor area, and for every 1,000 square feet, 92.90 square meters, of the total floor area of all other floors. Notwithstanding the foregoing, no parking space is required for any new or existing dwelling in an existing attached building located on our lot or parcel of land with no access to the rear yard through a public or private way, and that does not allow for the construction of a parking area in accordance with the provision of this bylaw.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Madame Gallery. Pretty complete. Do you want to add anything
I
to
do.
it about parking?
It's about parking, and it's one of those cases where you can see the limits of zoning. We have a building that has been there probably since 1900, 1910, maybe earlier than that. Parking regulations came after it, and the reality is that building, I mean, we live in a heritage preservation district where we try to conserve the buildings that were built of that era, but our own bylaws would not let that building be built today. It's a little circuitous, and and that's because of our parking regulations, and these parking regulations are often ossify the state of a city because they force cities to just be the same, because you can't change a use, you can't add a floor, you can't add housing, and here we spend a lot of time in the PPU talking about adding housing, and this building, I wasn't there at the time, but I'm going to be pretty sure that it had a commercial on the ground floor and residential on the second floor. Now we're reverting back to its original vocation, and it takes a minor derogation to unlock that ability. So for that, I am happy to support these kinds of changes, and maybe in the future we can start looking at situations where parking can be a limiter to construction, and for the ability for the city and owners to adapt their properties to the way that best suits their needs of that day.
Yeah, and so when we use this, the minor derogation tool is meant to be used in a unique situation, but if we were to see that this is not such a unique situation, obviously that would give rise to addressing the issue and changing the bylaw. So, okay, so it was seconded by Councillor Gallery. All in favor? Carried. And now we move to item number 30, adoption bylaw 1633 to establish rates and certain conditions for the supply of electricity for the year 2025-2026. This is Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll read
Oh
the
non,
object.
je m'excuse, je commence avec la greffière adjointe, s'il vous plaît.
Donc, je confirme que toutes les formalités requises pour la dispense de lecture de ce règlement ont été respectées et que des copies du règlement ont été remises à tous les membres du Conseil et mises à la disposition du public.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que je peux avoir une déclaration de la part de chaque membre du Conseil présent à la fait qu'il ou elle a lu le règlement et que la lecture en est dispensée?
So declared.
Thank you. Councillor Shammy.
Thank you,
can
Madam
indicate
Mayor.
the purpose of the
I
bylaw.
move, do you still want me to, I don't have to read the object?
I would read the object so
So
that
the
you...
object of bylaws says 33 to establish rates and certain conditions for the supply of electricity for the year 2025-2026 is to repeal bylaw 1618 in order to adjust the rates for electricity consumption by Hydro Westmount customers and certain conditions of service applicable to the supply of electricity as of April 1st, 2025. I move, Madam Mayor, that bylaw 1633 to establish rates and certain conditions for the supply of electricity for the year 2025-2026 be now adopted.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Aronson. Any further comments?
Straightforward.
All in favor? Carried. Numéro 31, adoption règlement 1634 sur les permis et certificats. Encore la greffière adjointe, s'il vous plaît.
Donc, toutes les formalités requises pour la dispense de lecture de ce règlement ont été respectées et les copies du règlement ont été remises à tous les membres du Conseil. Des copies ont également été mises à la disposition du public.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que je peux avoir une déclaration de la part de chaque membre du Conseil à la fait qu'il ou elle a lu le règlement et que lecture en est dispensée? Parfait. Encore, c'est Monsieur Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. The purpose of the Permits and Certificates Bylaw 1634 is to define the roles, the powers, the responsibilities of permit applicants, and the administration of the processing of permits and certificates. Whereas there is a need to replace Permits and Certificates Bylaw 1300 as amended by bylaws RCA 02 23008, RCA 04 23017, 1319, 1341, 1385, 1407, 1419, 1445, 1448, 1452, 1478, and 1492 in order to standardize and restructure its content and the follow-up of requests and authorizations and the administration of urban planning bylaws. Whereas Section 116 of the Act respecting land use planning and development, RSQ, Chapter A-19.1, grants the municipality the power to regulate the issuance of a building permit under certain conditions, whereas Sections 119 to 122 of the Act respecting land use planning and development, RSQ, Chapter A-19.1, grant the municipality the power to adopt a bylaw respecting planning permits and certificates, whereas notice of motion of this bylaw was given at a special sitting held on April 22nd of 2025, I move that Permits and Certificates Bylaw 1634 be adopted.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Do you want to add any further comments on this?
Yeah, I'm probably a little remiss by not mentioning this at the beginning of the session. We have a lot of old bylaws, and some of them are more foundational than others. And as you saw by that long list of bylaws that is replacing, you can see it was a bit of chicken wire and bailiwick that was holding the whole thing together. And it needed a full rewrite. And that's, we've done a couple of these before in recent years where we've just kind of gone in and rather than doing a renovation, we do a full demolition and a reconstruction. And this is one of those efforts right here. And from the ground up, this will replace our 1300 or bylaw 1300, which was our previous, or current rather, until this is adopted, or current permits and certificate bylaw. This one will be much more standardized. It is much clearer for the applicant to read and understand. It corrects a lot of the pitfalls that were pre-existing in other versions. It is coherent and ties in with the other bylaws that are in place, which was not necessarily the case for the pre-existing version. All in all, it is a much more robust bit of regulation that we've done, and it's quite the achievement from the Urban Planning Department. And in the past, years ago, where a lot of these bylaw revisions were on the to-do list or on the I'll get there pile, we've been slowly and steadily progressing through that list and making some changes, like I said, to one of these most foundational bylaws. In here, there's some notes about fines and for infractions, and we have being given in this community, we're being the most aggressive on the fines, so that they're not the shortcut or the cost of doing business when you're doing a renovation or a construction. So I'm happy and pleased and proud to be presenting this bylaw today.
Yeah, giving it some more teeth in terms of the impact it'll have when you are not adhering to your permit. So, on that note, all in favor? Aye. Carried. And now we move towards adoption of bylaw 1635, amending règlement 1530 concernant le régime de retraite pour les fonctionnaires et les employés de la ville de Westmount, refonte au 1er janvier 2014. Ça, c'est le conseiller Chiamé.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, but I think the assistant clerk has to do a
Ah, je m'excuse, on commence
lecture
avec
avant.
la greffière adjointe, s'il vous plaît.
Donc, je confirme que toutes les formalités requises pour la dispense de lecture de ce règlement ont été respectées et que les copies du règlement ont été remises à tous les membres du Conseil. Des copies ont également été mises à la disposition du public.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que je peux avoir la déclaration de la part de chaque membre du Conseil à l'effet qu'il ou elle a lu le règlement et que lecture en est dispensée? Maintenant, c'est le conseiller Chiamé.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll read the object of the purpose of bylaw 1635, amending Règlement 1530 concernant le, this is in French, I'll read it in French because it's in French. The purpose of bylaw 1635, amending Règlement 1530 concernant le régime de retraite pour les fonctionnaires et les employés de la ville de Westmount, refonte au 1er janvier 2014, is to modify, it's very bilingual, to modify a section of the current bylaw which provides for the remuneration of the members of the Retirement Committee. And I move that bylaw 1635, amending Règlement 1530 concernant le régime de retraite pour les fonctionnaires et les employés de la ville de Westmount, refonte au 1er janvier 2014, be now adopted.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Monsieur Peart. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 33, dans la section des ressources humaines, adoption politique corporative sur la tenue vestimentaire et l'apparence personnelle. Dress code and personal appearance. It was Councillor Chiamé.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll read the whereases since they're not very extensive. Whereas a policy concerning dress code and personal appearance was adopted by the city in 2016, whereas the Human Resources Department has modernized the policy in order to bring it in line with contemporary standards, fashions, and practices. I move, Madam Mayor, that Council acknowledge and adopt the corporate policy concerning dress code and personal appearance, RH 2025-04.
Merci beaucoup. Seconded by, and then you have that all city employees being subject to this policy. One more line.
Geez, I'm going too fast. And that all city employees be subject to this policy.
Merci beaucoup. Appuyé par Monsieur D'Amico. This is just updating that policy to meet 2025 standards. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. We now move to the second question period, if there are any. I think we've addressed the ones online, so we'll go to any in the room, and then,
This is John.
welcome.
Am I on? Thank you. John Press, 473 Lansdowne. Good evening, and thank you very much. Madam Mayor, the welcome news that there will be stuff going on up at Summit Woods in conjunction with those helpful people, Les Amis de la Montagne, is really great. Now, you mentioned that there will be sections cordoned off and replanted and something like that. So I return to an earlier question that I had asked you probably around February. Is there a plan, a master plan or a plan directoire for the summit?
Yes, they are working, Councillor Gallery, do you want to answer that? They are working on
I think it's all in progress right now.
the overall plan, and there are sections where we have closed off.
So when you have the plan, will you release it, will you make it public, or?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I think people would like to know what's
And
going
we'll
on up
share
there. and
some-
It's a way to, great for the community. Thank you very much.
And
yes,
as you know, sorry, they've been working up there since the snow's been melting, so they've done quite a bit of work.
Yeah,
Cleaning
no,
up
I
the
mean,
paths and the
There
entrances.
was
and-
work, there was great work done last fall, but I'm just saying it's, now that, because I had asked that question earlier on, and it didn't seem like there was a plan directoire, but obviously you have one, and.
So Madame la DG wants to say something, but as we have talked about, that this has been an ongoing partnership with Les Amis de la Montagne.
Yes, this is the first action of a plan of actions. It's
Okay.
not a plan directeur as, like with the big reports, and we're not there yet. We're putting together actions to
Yeah.
revitalize, but there's no like plan directeur, actually.
Well, you're allowed
And
to
it's-
do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next question, if there are any? No? All right, the meeting is adjourned. Go watch the hockey game. We're losing.